G'day and welcome. In this one we get quite a lot of work done. It's a lovely little runner now. Um, of course, quite a big cupboard, as you can see. It's looking quite good. So anyway, look, I hope you enjoy. Next video, after this one, it'll be all nice and colour sounded and buffed and shiny with a screen in it. The guys fitting the windscreen tomorrow morning, and of course we'll get all the headlights and all that sort of stuff in as well. But this one is just about getting the engine running and finishing off some of the other bits and pieces in the meantime. So I hope you enjoy. It's a castellated nut which is designed to have a split pin put through it, and on the tie rod end itself it has a hole, so we just pop that through. We don't use power tools or impact tools for these, we just do them by hand with a spanner. I'm just going to pop this around, just let me get this started, and we'll just turn it around like that so you can probably see a bit better. Can you see what I'm talking about? Yes, you can. I don't know if it's in focus though. Is it in focus? Alright. And we'll just tighten it up. Now the hole is about there. Just a moment. The head of the split pin should be facing the front of the car. I'm just going to cut the excess off. And we'll take some off there. Like that. That's much better. Now that's on. That's cool. All we're going to do is tighten this up. But I wait till the vehicle's on the ground and I've got the handbrake on and all that sort of stuff, and I'll tighten it up properly. But there is again a castellated section that fits over there with a split pin through it. I've just put a snare in a piece of wire to go from up here down to there. I think you've got it in there. The tailgate wiring now, ordinarily you wouldn't pull this out. I did because I changed the colour and I want the colour change to be good. I'm sort of feeding it in, it's in a rigid tube with the, oh here we go, and sort of pulling it through here. And I've also, you probably can't see, but I'll just take that wire so I don't take my eye out. And then that will go, the sort of plugs in there into this grommet. It all has to be waterproof. And the way it works is that you've got a series of looms. There's this one that goes along the roof and does the interior light. There's also a loom that goes down the bottom as well. So there are two rear looms essentially. And that's how tight I've done it. So you just pop these plugs through here, and it all fits beautifully. It's just sometimes it can be a little bit tricky to get in, and you've got to sort of, you know, think about what you're doing. If it doesn't fit straight away, it's wrong. That's how these cars are. They're such good cars that everything in them is thought out brilliantly. And most Japanese manufacturers are like that. Nissan are like that. Nissan can be a bit hot and cold though with their stuff. This is just an exercise in ridiculousness where we're just, whoa, putting those stickers back on. Hang on, where do they go? There, these big holes. And there are loads of them. Whoops, I'm leaning over the camera, sorry. And I've also done the same on the back of the stickers themselves. Just stick them back where we found them. And they'll stay there. They're nice and firm. So we just do it the way Toyota did it, which is pretty laughable because I can't see anyone else doing this, but this is just me being me. And that one goes there. I'm sort of doing this 14 on the sill, and I'm just gluing them up and doing it bit by bit. Right, we're up the front of the car. I went to pick apart today to get some amplifiers for Bluebirds, and I know there was a car there that had a couple because I wanted to put a bigger stereo on this, and of course somebody beat me to it because I was talking about it on the channel. I'm sure they went down and got them. I don't know, maybe they just knew about it. While the front of this is off, there's a few things we need to do. The power steering pump and the air conditioning compressor's not on yet. I want to do an oil change. So I'm just going to pipe that up. I've drained the oil. I'd had an oil change sort of halfway through last year. Well, most of it's drained back anyway. Just make sure your gasket comes off with the oil filter. And that surface, which I don't know if you can see where it was, that surface there where the oil filter mounts is nice and clean. Right, so what we're going to do, we'll just mop that up. We'll pop a new filter on it, and you know, it's ready to go. We can put fresh oil in and all that sort of business. Had a service, I think. What is it now? May. I think I did one in August last year. So it's not really done much in terms of miles since then. But you know what? Oil does get condensation through it. The reason I did this now, there's a heat shield that goes on the manifold. I haven't put on yet. When it goes in for over, they don't want leaks, and of course, I don't want oil sort of sitting behind there. So I just thought it'd be easier to poke a rag behind there and da 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 da. But you know, it turned out being a non-event. Of course, we can put the power steering pump on. That's a pain in the neck. It's easy to put on, but it's a pain in the neck to adjust the belt in the car. But I can get around it here. The other thing we can do while we're here is fill the gearbox up, which is down there. Then air conditioning plumbed up and all the rest of it, which is all good fun. Oil filter, either Ryco or genuine Toyota is the way to go. Industry standard stuff, really, really good quality. You're safe with them. They'll come with a plastic cover on. Just poke your finger in the middle and that should release, which this one just didn't. Oh, pain. Now, sometimes they're pre-lubricated. Oh, hang on. Gotcha. Just a bit of clean oil around the gasket, like that, just so it doesn't displace when you put it on, or misplace, or whatever you want to call it. And the key to these things, people over tighten them and they're hellish to get off, particularly on these cars. Once your air conditioning and everything's there and your heat shield's on, there's a tool that you can use just like that. That's fine. You don't have to over tighten those things or be overzealous with it, and then you just fill the engine up with oil. The importance of oil changes can't be overestimated. I like using mineral oil because they're more forgiving. Synthetics are better. Some cars insist on synthetic or semi-synthetic, so it's a tongue twister. Mineral oils tend to, is this mineral oil? I think it is. They tend to, yeah, mineral oil. They tend to sort of degrade over time, if you know what I mean. Synthetics sort of work and then they don't. So if you don't keep your oil changes up with a synthetically lubricated engine, you're in trouble. Just ask the poor lady at my school, well, our school, who had a Mazda 3. She got her car serviced every 12 months, and one 12-month period she did 20,000 kilometres, and the engine was fried because the oil changes were supposed to be every 10 or something like that. So I'm just going to pop some in. It's a cool sort of evening, so you know, we don't have to be overzealous with this. I'm just going to pop that in for now, and once it works its way down, we'll check the dipstick, check it on the dipstick. We'll go a little bit overfull, just a tiny bit, because we have to prime the oil filter. It has to sort of go all through the oil filter. And check it warm and all that sort of bizzo, but I just want to get that out of the way for now. At the moment it's sort of sitting down here empty, but that'll come right up because the engine, because it is quite cool tonight. So that can just sit there and be a good boy. Right. So the gearbox now, and it's a cool evening again, as I said, so it might take a little while to fill up. This is pretty slow going, filling the gearbox through a funnel. If you're a dealer-based mechanic or in a workshop, proper workshop, that's like pumps for this sort of stuff. I think it uses 2 litres, 2.5 litres. We'll know when it starts pouring out of the tube from the gearbox, but I'll just keep putting it in for now. It's just running out now. What's a mosquito? Let's stabilise a little bit, and then we'll pop the plug in. We don't ever tighten those, we just nip them up. Just sifting through seatbelts. Interestingly, the early ones are the ones with the larger canisters, and they're not connected. So Toyota put a little blank off plug in the SRS airbag thing. I don't know the deal with them, but they were fitted as standard equipment, so obviously they were supplied that way, and you know, even though they weren't connected, they were going to be later on. They're all controlled by this thing here, a little SRS computer, and the crash sensors in there. And we'll pull that apart and have a look. It says do not open or something on it. where does it say it? Do not disassemble. Caution, SRS airbag. So that's the module that sits forward of the console in the 98, 99 cars. The computers are all the same. They've all got the same part number. They're all 4EFE manual transmission. These two here with the longer brackets are 97, 96, 97. This is 98. It's exactly the same. It's just it's got a shorter bracket here, and obviously that's for the different crash bar. So I've got to go through these. Please don't ask for second-hand seatbelts. I never sell them. The other thing is they've got the switch for the seatbelt warning light. Some of them have and some of them haven't. I think the 98's had them on both sides. 97's only had them on the driver's side, I believe. And they would be left-hand front 97s because they're blanked off. That's what I'm tipping with that. So I'm going to go through, pick up the best ones. Some of the belts in the back are good, in good condition. That one can go in the car. So I'll just sift through and see what I've got. It's time to do a bit of work around the front of this thing. We've got to give it power steering and air conditioning. It has a power and air systems, but it doesn't have the pump and compressor. Power steering pump is a positive displacement pump. So for every rotation, a certain amount comes out. So I'm just going to hang the thing up here. That goes down there. That goes there. So I'll just stick some bolts in to hang him there for now. And I said before, the power steering pump on these things is a pain in the neck to adjust, the belt. And so that's sort of why I wanted to do it without the front on, without the air conditioner on. Then I can just put the air conditioning one underneath. And I've lost one of the bolts already because I'm really quite vague today. Okay, that snugs up against the block. That one in there's a pain, but it doesn't matter, we can manage. Nothing like working on cars in your slippers, eh? Don't want to mark anything up. This will just make it easier to. So there's one behind the pump body itself that I've got to get to, and I've got to do it with the spanners. I'm not going to tighten them fully. You sort of got to get in there and work it in, and then tighten him up with the ring spanner, which is fine. That's pretty easy to do. Might have to open another bottle of oil because I used up a bottle I had before. And it's going well. There we go, that's just nipped up for now. It's right on full, but that we'll have to fill it to about there. Another 5 or 6 mil up just to allow for the oil filter because it's empty. Now I'll stick these two 8mm ones in, we can tighten everything up. Power steering's hooked up. It uses this joined copper washer. I'm going to try and reuse it, and if it leaks I'll change my mind. We cleaned out all in here. This is called a banjo fitting because it resembles neckboard and banjo. That's the banjo bolt which goes through it, which then sits in there, and these are quite difficult to tighten because you can't get a spanner so easily in there. But once we've tightened that, we can put fluid in, just let it sit and make sure it doesn't leak. And these just use regular transmission fluid. I always keep this 1 litre bottle. I'd buy it in 4 or 5 litre tubs, but just keep a 1 litre because they're easier to sort of pour in. And normally once this is running, it's going to go right through the system. So it'll sink right down, so we're going to have to top it up a few times. And the first time we start it, and it runs through, it's going to be like a strawberry milkshake. It's going to be all aerated and horrible. And we lift the front wheels off the ground to prime it, but that's well overfilled, but it doesn't matter, that's how I want it for now. So the time's upon us to put this air conditioning compressor on. I went to the Wreckers in Dandenong yesterday. Met a lovely chap there that watches this stuff. And the only reason I went was for these bolts that hold the compressor on the block, or on the bracket, and the olive in there. And I've got 2 of them around somewhere, and 2 of these sets, and you reckon I can find them? No. They're not in any of the Starlie stash boxes or anything I've got lying around. I haven't really cleaned this compressor up, it looks pretty manky, but it'll be alright. you barely see the thing anyhow. So I gave it a bit of a clean, a whistle and a promise sort of thing, but the problem with it is I don't want anything getting in there or there. They're so precision. Got the bolt down the bottom, and as you can see, you know, without the radiator and the condenser in here, it just makes things so much easier. So that, I'll just tighten that up, and I might pop some new O-rings on the lines before I put them on. Just thread a belt on. Again, there's no guards under here, so I can get it straight on, hopefully. Around the aircon. Wind him on. Might have to adjust that back a bit, that's still a little bit tight. Good idea to be on good terms with the dentist, obviously for your teeth, but these tools here, which they check people for fillings with, are excellent for removing old O-rings because you don't scratch. That's a finely machined surface, and if you dig out with a screwdriver, you'll find that that you can scratch them. This way you can rotate the tool underneath the O-ring, famous last words, and just wind it off and replace it. And it doesn't damage the O-ring when you take it off because you're riding on the sort of the inner part of that heel. So I've got a set of them. I reckon they're great things. Alright, now we've got all that other fiddly stuff out the way. This little heat shield can go on and make it look a little bit better. I'm at dinner, I'm in my slippers, so I just thought I've just got to put this in. You know how it goes. Let's pull that out of the way and just lower that guy down there. And now go into the little spigot things. Goes that way. Oh yes. Goes in like that, and it just doesn't look clean compared to the rest of it, but doesn't pop that hose on there just to hold it there for now. I should really rattle can the bracket, shouldn't I? Everything in the front now. I'm going to stick some coolant in. This green stuff's based on ethylene glycol. This radiator's not bolted in at the top, it still moves because I wanted to just give them a quick coat, the brackets on the top. Just to look so nice from above. Oh, right. Okay, where do we begin? I've done quite a lot. I've just been putting bits and pieces on. It looks like a lot, but it's just bits and pieces, really. And none of it's all that clean, really. I've just done my best with sort of giving it a quick spruce. Things like this, small details of this that hold the headlight. I've changed that over one with a lock on it. It's important we have that sort of thing. And adjusted it up the same. The washer bottle's in. That's actually a different washer bottle because the one I had was full of mould. You could probably fill it up with baking soda and boil a kettle or whatever, but yeah, I was at the Wreckers in Dandenong getting bolts and an olive for the exhaust. Why not just pick up a washer bottle? They still charge me $21 though. The crash bar, or bumper frame, I painted it well on the other side. I thought that was the bottom, but it's not. That's the top. Doesn't matter. It's all covered up anyway. Not sure if I've got that wiring routed correctly there. That looks wrong as well. But everything's sealed up. The air conditioner's all sealed up. It's ready to be evacuated and gassed. The power steering's on. It's full. We talked about that. The belt's on. Adjusted. It's been given an oil change. It's got fresh coolant down in this overflow bottle here. Fresh coolant down here. I'll talk about coolant in a minute. In fact, I might talk about it now. If you have an engine that's higher than the top of the radiator, like that one, it's important to bleed it, although having said that, I've never bled one of these. It is a problem with some cars such as VL Commodores, and what you would normally do is get a soft drink bottle, wrap masking tape around there so it's a snug fit in the top. Of course, you cut the bottom off and use that as a funnel to fill it, and so that way you can maintain the coolant level up the bottle, open up the bleeder because it's above the cylinder head level, and then all the air will come out. Close the bleeder, pull the bottle out, and it's bled. That's how we always used to do it, particularly on VL Commodores, because the cylinder head was higher than the level of the radiator. They used to crack. Of course, in the R31 Skylines, they didn't crack, but in the Commodores, they did for that reason. Right, where are we now? Let's move around here. Everything's in, throttle's connected. Brakes are all sealed up, but they're not bled yet. The clutch is bled, steering's in. That's still loose, the steering wheel. We've got the wiring over there in the central locking's all fitted. And down here on this door as well. The bracing is in. Is that coming out of focus? We're going to go back in. There we go. The bracing down here, the floor falls away, then the side comes up. So it's actually a weak spot. So to brace them with those things there and triangulate that whole bottom area down here. Down there. Seatbelts are in, as are the interior door lights, switches, and the seatbelt warning light. This bottom of the seatbelt has to go into a row once the carpet's in, but we haven't got that in yet. The rear washer hose is coming along, up alongside the in the roof there, and then it exits out behind. And there's also roof braces up here and up there as well. So your rear belts are in. The seat hinges for the rear and the what do you call it? The catches as well. Whatever you call it, the thing that catches on. And you can see the rear wiring loom coming up there, going down toward the front of the car. Gear shift's connected, handbrake's connected, handbrake warning light's connected there. Oh, and I've just got to connect up the fuel pump. That's what that goes onto the tank. That plug there. Computer's in, and the rest of the wiring is all in the dash. And so we've got to sort of talk about that. It's taking a bit of weight off the front, and oops, we can see the power steering will start, the level will start to go down as the ram in the steering rack moves. It'll cause that level to go down. So we're kind of bleeding it without the engine going at the moment. That's probably as much as we're going to get out of it. But of course we still can't, that's only just sort of going into the rack. So we still, there's still fluid to go through the pump. So we've come from all the way up there beforehand, right down to there. So it'll be able to purge the line to some degree, and the rack should be bled, almost. We've just got to do the pump. So there'll still be a drop there, but we can deal with that later. And when you spill this stuff, it actually stains. It dries with white sort of residue, so we'll just get some water and hose it off. But that looks nice and bled. We can squeeze the bottom hose, and that's all pretty good. So that can go on. I've just been keeping sort of the best bits of, things with numbers on them and the booster down there, stuff like that, just to make it look more original than what it is. Because, as I said, it's been made from a few different cars. So I think the next thing to do, the only thing stopping us starting this, is actually putting the dash in. And it might be an idea to do that now. Right, nice pan shot of the back of the dashboard. I'm just messing around with some wiring. Basically, we've got this non-genuine wiring that's been sort of patched into the radio, or for the radio. Toyota all use the same connectors of this vintage. And I'm just joining up the original ones, because I've never thought non-standard radios look any good. They always have scrolling messages and all this sort of stuff going past, and a lot of the time they don't sound much better than the originals. I think people fit them because they want to play MP3 files and that sort of stuff. And so I'm not really interested, so I'm going to put the standard one back with the CD player. Originally I'll show you what I was going to do. I was going to fit a Nissan unit, which is much more powerful, with a couple of amps in it. We should be using heat shrink here, but we're not. We're just taping them and making it as tidy as we can. And we've got to get this dash in, because this is the way the car's going to start. Most of the wiring that goes to the computer is under here. Goes to the dash, distributes it to all the switches. The car has no chance of running without this all wired up and fitted to the vehicle. So we've got those ones on. So I guess now we separate the ones we don't have on. That blue, and there's speakers at the front that connect in there. So those two will be that one, which is the driver speaker, right-hand speaker. And they're all color coded. This wire is actually, I don't cut wiring looms at wrecking yards unless they've been cut, and this one had. So I thought, you know what, open slather, I am going to slice into it because I can. Somebody else has been there first. And it's important to solder this sort of stuff. Don't just twirl it together and use tape. Where's the one I just did? I'm going to cut the end of that off and tape him up. They can get quite hot. The other thing I noticed, the guy that fitted the non-standard one didn't connect up the rear speakers because there aren't any rear speakers, but what he didn't know is Toyota always have the speaker wiring in for the rear speakers. They tuck them behind a plastic trim and you can just untuck them and the plug's there and everything. 5-door hatchbacks of these came standard with rear speakers, the 3-doors didn't. But you can just put speakers in the parcel tray in the back and the wiring's all there for you. So there you go, they're the original things. Now as far as the cluster wires are concerned, they have a bunch of parts in them. There's a lock bridge that slides in the back and clicks in. Then there's this guy here which comes in as well, which is a secondary lock. Now to get them out, you've got to actually put a pin underneath it, hold it down and then withdraw the wire. That yellow or black with a yellow trace is actually one of the airbag wires. There's a dark blue one, or there's a blue one, sorry, on the 98 model year. I didn't know that was airbag until after, so I might just tape that off and then just withdraw that. And of course your oil pressure gauges and temperature gauges take wires off in different spots. Now I'm kind of not going to do anything about this at the moment. It's got a rib in there too for some reason. I don't know why, to keep it rigid. So I'll put this back in the car the way it is now. Everything will plug in and then we can start the thing. That's, I think, what I want to see anyway. This is a glove box lock from a 98. That's 97. The 98 one's slightly longer because the crash bar is different. And I changed the crash bar so I could use the column out of the later car with the power steering and everything out. So that's just a screwing affair. Unclip the wires, clip them into this, screw it back in and we're good to go. Right, well, I'm ready to put it in. I've changed that over. It's just a bit longer there than the original one. Everything else is done, so look, it's dark. I wasn't going to do it now. I wanted to do all the stuff in the light so I can film it better, so if it doesn't work out too well, what can I do? But I'm sort of in a hurry because we're going back to work, but not just that, Mum is not well. And I'm sort of doing this for her, oddly enough. And we'll just, hopefully we can get it done in time and it's all good. Right. The problem I've got here is I can't see down. You probably can't either because you've got my back on. Now, this is where we have to think about where all these wires are going to go. These hang down anyhow. I think that's right. So we just try and plug them up at the top and it should sort of look something like this. They're sort of all okay. So much better with that bloody window here. Let's see if this will go in. There might be something in the way. I think that might be it. Hang on. No, not quite. I think that's it. Is that going to focus? Yes, it is. Right. Vehicle earths are more likely to give you electrical problem than anything else in the car if you've got problems with your electrics. So if you've got problems with your electrics, it's almost certainly an earth. These earth bolts for the outside are cut. They've got sort of like a weird cut on. They're not cut, they're actually rolled. And they're designed to cut in, so if you've got rust or anything, it will sort of cut and you thread. So we're going to tighten that up. I'm about to start it, or at least try to. I'm just going to tighten that up before I forget. But vehicle earths are very, very important. How we situate under here, we have the body earth on there. The electric door locks and everything are hooked up, but they still won't run because the switches aren't there. But that doesn't matter. Fuse box. Bunch of things here. Not sure. I think they're for. One of them's for a lit. What do you call it? Key lock, that sort of thing. Not sure what they are. That's dash light dimmer speaker. Everything's catered for under here. We've got another earth in there, which is nice and tight. Radio ones we just wired up. What else? The dash ones, the dash plugs and everything aren't hooked up yet. I'm still working on that. The vehicle's computer and everything's wired up. That's all finished over there with the heater and all that sort of business. That's another speaker there, that one there. And that's all good. The only thing left, the body loom and the engine loom are all connected under there. That's where the airbag computer is on the 98, 99 cars. So it's all good. It's only a couple of these things that I'm not sure about because they're not common to 98 looms. I don't think so. There's another one down here somewhere. There's another one which will be, there it is. That's cigarette lighter and ashtray. I think that's pretty much it. I'm going to stick power in here. I just don't want anything shorting out. That would be bad. So I'll just leave those wires sort of floating. Now the only thing we've got to do is hook up the fuel pump. I use some of this stuff in there. This is electronic contact cleaner and lube. Great stuff. I'll just put this through that steel lid and plug it in. Right. So that goes that way. Well, only thing left now is stick a battery and see what happens, eh? Battery. Whenever you connect a battery, always connect the positive first. That way, if you're tightening it up and you hit something, steel, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to tighten it. I'm just going to stick it on like that. That way, if you connect the negative second, which barely fits, running out of room, and you hit something then, it doesn't matter. So I'm just going to do that to make sure we've not got any nasty shortos. That wire's awfully tight. It's the wrong battery. It should have the post on that side. Now we've had everything out of this car, so I'm just going to cycle ignition quickly. We should hear the fuel pump, and we'll take it from there. And I want to check up here, because I've had that fuel line off, and also the one underneath. We want to have a good look before we try and start it that everything's in order. I didn't hear any fuel. I didn't hear the fuel pump. That's an earth there for the fuel pump. There's a couple of earths down here. I thought they were tail lights, but that could well be the one because that's the same loom the fuel tank's on, the fuel pump's on. So I think we might just connect that one up and see how we go. Nope, still can't hear anything. Started though. A bit like a chaff cutter, but I can't smell fuel. That's the return line there. It's not leaking. You can see this started getting pumped around. We'll give it another quick start and see what happens. Okay, there it is there. Okay. Just check the oil. And that's a really good result. You know, I could have let it sit with the ignition on and the fuel pump purge the air itself instead of cranking it, because it will purge until it'll stop. The fuel pump will stop once it gets to a predetermined pressure. You can see it's down a little bit. about 6 mil, so a bit more. We'll see, it might make a groan when we try and turn the wheel. Sort of pre-bled the power steering. Look at quite a bit. Beautiful. We haven't got a temperature gauge or anything, so we still have to be reasonably careful. I'll give him a bit of a drink. There's probably air pockets through it. I don't know. These aren't bad for that though. You can see it's all frothy. That's normally you'd see that and you'd think a head gasket, but it's had no coolant in it. It's been lying around dry for a long time. It'll all settle down by tomorrow. We've got the wind. We've got some 20 fluid left. Hang on. Top up the power steering. What a beautiful little car, eh? That's why I like these things. And I hear the injectors tapping. We're letting in a very small amount of fuel in for each cylinder. So I reckon that's probably it for this one. Right, we've got the windscreen being fitted on Thursday morning. So there'll be a brand new window put in, and then I've got to kind of buff it in the meantime. I might do that tomorrow. If I have time, I've got a busy day at work tomorrow. So we'll try and get it done. Then all the doors can go back together, the windows can go in. Once the screen's in, I'm going to park it out here and just let it get rained on for a while, just to make sure there's no water leaks inside the car or anything. But in the meantime, thanks very much for watching. Take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon. What do you reckon? She haven't. Jesus.